All right. Hello, everyone. Hi. Every time I do these talks, I always feel extremely humble, to be in front of all these creative minds. And thank you for making today. Also, Generate, thank you so much for inviting. Huge honor to be here today. My talk is going to be about the lessons I learned in my experience of 15 years, a little over 15 years. It's almost 20 years, but my professional year is 15 years, so I just put that number in there. But the lessons that I learned throughout, and maybe hit on some of the past projects that hit on those lessons, and go through some of the behind the scene, how we did it, maybe the more on the process that I want to go through. So I'll go through 4 things today. So I don't know how much people know about us, but we are a digital agency in New York. We are 18 years old now. We have 100 people. This was a right day after our holiday party. Everyone had to come in all drunk and wear this hideous clothes together and take a photo. I love it. We make big websites, small websites, mobile app product, physical installations, pretty much everything. And I guess we like it that way. We have people all around the world. I myself is from Korea, Seoul, literally almost opposite side of the world. And to me, I had a professional career in Korea for like 5 years, and I always felt like something was missing, and I just wanted to always kind of go to the big city and try it out, and finally made to the big city. And coming to New York, it was a huge thing for me, like a pretty big deal. And I don't know where everyone's from, but for me, coming to New York 10 years ago, it was a very big thing because when I was back in Korea, when I was working there, I always had this fantasy of New York's going to be this perfect city where clients going to be all great. They're going to have this amazing eye of design. The project scope is going to be so big. The project's length is going to be so long. We're going to have so many time to actually make the project perfect. But in reality, when I came here, everything was pretty much the same. Like it was pretty much the same. Yeah, there are a couple of those definitely clients and projects, but it really was the same. So for me, it was a pretty eye-opening experience because I was complaining about my situation, blaming about my situation for a pretty long time, almost 5 years, and the utopian wasn't there. It was just, reality was same. And it, there's a saying, right? A bad workman blames his tools, right? This was me, doing the same thing. And I guess to me, that was a very eye-opening experience because at that point, there was no more to look up. This was it. I had to do something, what I have today. And that changed the perspective. Even though this might be something obvious for a lot of people, but for me, that was a really eye-opening experience. And I realized it starts with me. It starts with you. And I realized there were so many talented people around, and I just needed to get better. And when I look back at some of the most successful projects we've done at Firstborn, it wasn't the biggest budget. It wasn't the longest timeline. It wasn't one of those things. It was actually smaller or opposite of that. And nothing was like really planned. It was just organically happened, and a lot of luck too. And I want to show one of the projects. It was for Uniqlo, and some of you might know, but basically this was like 2012 or 11. And they came to us. They were trying to get into New York and to US to get the Uniqlo brand out there. There was only like 1 or 2 stores in New York, and not a lot of people knew about it. They wanted us to do some awareness campaign, and that was it. That was the brief. That was it. Like no budget, no timeline, and everything was just like very not there for us to do any good work, right? But in Japan, they were doing some awesome projects, and we were like, okay, let's do something. It seems like a cool opportunity. Even though we might lose money, let's just do it. Let's just invest and try it. And at that time, Pinterest was kind of like just came out. It was invitation only. It was like kind of everyone was talking about it. Everyone was trying to figure out something to do. And we started pinning, and we were like, okay, maybe we should do something on Pinterest. Again, it was just like, we were just saying, we picked the platform first. It might be the worst process to go into ideation, but we just did it. We were like, okay, let's just do something in Pinterest. And we started pinning, and we realized there was no height restriction at that time. I don't know today, but at that time, there was no height restriction. And we started pinning like 1,000 pixel, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, and keep going. And the max was 8,228 pixel, to be exact. And we were like, whoa, we could do something pretty cool at this. And we're like, okay, like on Pinterest, people scroll, right? Like, okay, so what if we could use like a film strip? like image sequences, and we just put an image sequence, and as you scroll, maybe an animation happens, and we did it, and it actually worked, and we're like, cool. But the reality was that Pixel was only 192 width. It was such a tiny image, and it just didn't have an impact that we imagined from the whiteboard, and when we were doing it. And then when we started to pin on our board, we saw like a lot of images stack up, and we're like, oh my God, what if we just take over the whole Pinterest? For 2 hours, let's pick a date. Let's just take it over. Let's just hack the site. We call it Pin Bomb. And we were just so excited about the idea. And what if we use the full canvas to create this awesome animation? And from there, we started to ideate. We made some After Effects files and just like kind of did some prototype, and it actually worked. But the problem was it didn't show up on the homepage. You know, obviously this is an awareness campaign, right? We got to let people see it, but it didn't really show up on the homepage. And again, there was no documentation about Pinterest, and there was no API. Nothing was there. We were just like figuring out as we were going. And there was two things we realized. First thing is you have to be an active user. You have to be pinning every day. Also, you have to be an active account at least minimum 3 weeks. So any new accounts won't show up until 3 weeks, and you have to be active. And finally, only one image will show up per day. So there was a lot of limitation, and this was all just us figuring it out. We never called Pinterest. You know, we didn't know what they were going to say, so we just like kind of figured it out. And then after that, we started creating Excel docs of invitations, and we literally made hundreds and hundreds of accounts, dummy accounts, user ID, password, and just like hundreds of accounts. And our poor interns, they've been pinning every day for like 3-4 weeks of cats, rainbows, furniture, frames, anything pretty that hits on every category of Pinterest. And I give them full credit on this project. So, and then once we had the 100 account ready, we were ready to do this. But obviously, you know, our software engineers, and they're all smart, we could have created like really sophisticated system where you click a button and then it would just burst that image, right? But no budget. We had no money, so we couldn't do anything fancy. So what we did was, okay, let's get a table, you know, let's line up some laptops, order them a number, and when we were standing right here, and we said, pin, 3, 2, 1, pin, and then the first one pin, second one pin, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. First row would do it, and then they get ready for the second bomb. And then the second row will do alter. So we've been doing that for like 2 hours and taking over Pinterest. On the screen, our front-end dev just made something super simple. Basically, we had a number from 1 to 8. Each number is dedicated. Each notebook has a number. So once you pin it, it will refresh. It will re-log in automatically to a new account from the hundreds of the pools that we created, and then you get a new image. And it's really simple stuff, nothing crazy. It was all manual intern work, and then this a little bit of front end and a little bit of back end, I guess. We had so much fun, and at the same time, we were nervous what people were going to say. Are they going to say, "Wow, you just like put banners all over the place"? But we made it pretty, so it didn't look like those ugly banners. We got so much great feedback. There was no media push at all, and we got like media coverage from everywhere. Twitter, everywhere were just going crazy, and we did not expect that at all. Nothing was planned. We were just nervous at the same time. And Uniqlo client was really nervous when we said we were going to do it at 2 p.m. And he was like, oh, okay, maybe I should call Pinterest. I was like, no, you can't. That's the whole point. And it was a really fun experience. And you know, not that awards matter so much, but this was, I think, the most awarded project of Firstborn history. And it's such a small project if you compare it to the big multi-million-dollar project we do. This was like literally nothing. And to us, we learned so much from it. You know, and the team actually made something out of in that boundary and not saw that as a limitation, and they embraced it. And I think that's a big thing. So the first takeaway for me is like, if you wait for the perfect opportunity, it will never happen. You know, it starts with you. You know, again, either you're in a startup or a big tech company, or you run a company, or whatever situation you are, you're a developer, design, doesn't matter, right? But for me, I always wanted that perfect opportunity to just land on my lap and then just do it. But you know, most of the case, it really never happens. It starts from you, and I think that's something you could start right away. Second thing is everyone's afraid of something. I teach at SVA, School of Visual Arts, every Wednesday and Thursday, 6 to 9. Students come to our office, 3 hours of intense lecture and brainstorming together, and it's fun. And I learned a lot from that experience. I made a graph just to simplify what I'm trying to say here. Time versus idea. The higher it up, the idea is better, right? So we had, let's say there's there's a blue student and then there's the green student. The blue student, you know, the top 10%, right? Right off the bat, they're really good already. They do professional like look and feel, and they understand digital, and they get it. And they, as the time progresses, they're always up on the high zone, but they don't like peak so much. But when you look at that green student who has like kind of like a little odd ideas, a little off, you know, but as the time progresses, they go up and down. Sometimes it's awesome, sometimes it's awful, sometimes it's, wow, this is amazing, and awful, you know, and that happens. And as time progresses and they're senior and all the way down to graduation and they actually go into the industry, those green students actually make a bigger impact in the industry, you know. And every class is like this. Every semester I teach is like that. And I'm like saying, why is it this way, right? And I kind of looked at myself from the class. Basically, the blue students, they know what works. You know, they know what it takes to really, you know, kind of get in that high zone area to come up with that perfect idea. But it's a good idea. It's not excellent, but it's a good idea. Why did it do that? Because there's so much expectation of the class. All the students, all the professors, all the parents, whoever they're related to, they have so much expectation, they have to deliver that, and they're so afraid. But the green students, their expectation is like zero, almost negative. So they don't give a shit. They just come up with whatever, and sometimes it's just awesome, and sometimes it's awful. And I think this is same. And you know, the fear is the biggest thing, right? The fear, we all have it, but our society is the same, right? When you look at us in the industry, we want to make sure we look good to our boss. We want to make sure we look good to our coworker. If I'm a boss, I want to make sure I look good to our team, right? You just have that stress, and you want to make sure you don't fail. And I think that's the ultimate fear, and we have to kind of get out from that boundary. And I think that's really important. For me, overcoming this fear, this is a way of me doing it. It might not be for everyone, but learning new things to overcome the fear is my method. I love learning new things because when I learn, I could try different things, right? I'm prepared to try different things. Miyai Haizaki, anime director, you know, amazing director. He like super old guy, still makes awesome stuff. Doesn't now yet, but one of the interviews he said is someone different at age 18 or 60, I believe one stays the same. And I think the conversation at that time, if I remember, they were asking, hey, like, don't you think you get less creative when you get older? And he was saying, no, actually you get lazy when you get older, you know, you get lazy. And I love that. I have 2 kids, you know, it's not like, I have a whole family. And my life is so complicated. I teach, I have 2 kids and a full family. I live in the city. I mean, it is crazy. But I try to manage my time and try to find that 1 hour or 30 minutes in time so where I could learn new things and try different things. And I want to, like when I'm 60, I still want to design because that's my big passion. If I don't do that, I have no reason to be in this industry. So I went back home and found my old hard drives to just kind of pull up some old designs, and it's kind of embarrassing to show, but I was trying different things, and as a designer, always trying to challenge myself. I'm not a good drawer. I don't draw good things. I'm not a great illustrator, but I was taking classes with life figuring classes, with life drawing classes with my wife. She's an amazing artist. With her, I learn from her every day. She gives me so much inspiration. This was one example. I learned how to code, so some of the things I use code to embed into my design, and this was done with coding. Some other Mustang stuff I did at 2010, I believe. This one, the pitch we did. I was so into this client, I think it was Urban Daddy, and they were doing this whole new e-commerce site, and they asked us, and parallax was a kind of big thing at 2011, And I designed something, like every line was done by me, and I just tried to explain what I was doing. And it was so over the top for a pitch, but I just did it because I wanted to try something different. And I think it looks cool. I was going through the hard drive, and I found this. Oh, this looks pretty neat. I'll just throw it in there. The shoe, I just bought it online, Turbo Squid, the 3D file. I just popped it in, rendered it out, and just like threw it in there in After Effects. Again, it was 3 days of designing and 1 day of After Effects. That was it. You know, I'm not good at drawing again. I tried different things. I was into 3D at one point, and I was trying to sell in this point of view game to our TV series network, and I was just trying to like make something and show them how it could look. You know, again, for even 3D, it took me like at least 3 years to be in a place where I felt a little comfortable trying it. But that 3 years, it really paid off. After 15 years of doing it, now like, it's like Photoshop, right? Once you know Photoshop, every version doesn't really matter. It's the same thing, just add more features to it. Same thing with 3D. I'm not a good coder, but I want to be a good coder. Our company has so many great developers. I always ask them questions, and if they see my code, they might have a heart attack. You know, all these if statements and all these things that I just threw in there. But for me, like when I started coding, like 13, 14 years ago, like there was no online stuff. You know, I had to buy those 400-page books, and the first thing is like you flip a page, and the first thing is what? You do hello world, right? You traced hello world on a browser or something, and you do it, you feel so great. Next day you come and you do the second page, you have no idea what this means, right? And then you come back next day again, and again, again, and again, and the fourth day, fifth day, and all of a sudden it starts to make sense. Maybe I'm not so smart as, you know, developers, but for me, like doing that for years, and I feel now comfortable, you know, but everything kind of came together. What's interesting is like I was always constantly battling with myself. Why am I doing this? You know, I am a designer. I should just stick to Photoshop. Why do I code, right? But now, like with these knowledge in between and everything, I just started to play around with Unity because they just released a personal edition version recently, 5.0, and it was just combination of After Effects and 3D and C#. And for me, learning curve was so easy because everything was all connected, you know? So it kind of paid off for me. So to do this, and when we try new things in a company, it's hard, right? So the process needs to be really different. And what I want to say is the process needs to be organic, not forced. You know, when we talk about process, we talk about agile versus waterfall. You know, both of them are great. Both of them are good. Waterfall sometimes works. Waterfall doesn't work for sometimes. Agile works. But to me, because of our company does so many different things, we have to have this very organic process. And I wanted to show a couple of things here. This was just using a LinkedIn API for ANA. Basic idea was like you connect with your LinkedIn ID, and then it just shows the full connection on the globe and shows all the flights, how to get there. Very simple idea. This was the actual PSD design our designer did. And then when you get this as a developer, it's pretty challenging. Like, you know you're going to do WebGL, right? That's the first thing he thought about. And the second thing is, like, I'm sure there's like million shadow layers and the lights and everything. And as a developer, like, it's really hard to translate that. You can't just bake the texture to the globe. It's got to be real time. So our developer, Emily, and our art director, Cami, kind of worked on a solution together that, you know, okay, let's set up a light together. Maybe there's 3, 4 directional light, the main, backlit, supporting light. And then I'll just set up these adjustment intensity and hue cues and everything. And why don't you go in and just like change the color in real time and just like let me know, send me the link with those values. So what did this, it was actually designers now could do their best thing at those little details, right? And developers could really focus on what they're good at, the structural thing, the optimization thing, the file structure, everything needs to be fluid. Even the gravity and restriction and the velocity, everything was all done by designer. They were actually setting those values. Before, if you tried to do something like this, it's so many times you're going back and forth, and you're wasting so much time of that. And at the end, you just kind of, you lose the optimization part. You lose the whole experience part. It works, but it's not great, you know? So the process needs to change. And again, this is another thing was it was the line value. So basically, when Cami designed this, he was designing in Photoshop, and he drew line by line, and it took him like hours to make something. And for him to go back and change those lines is almost impossible. It's done, right? But by coding, once she set it up, she's like, oh, okay, like why don't you try the thickness, randomness of the opacity, the arc value, and you could come up with it. And all of a sudden, the design actually looked better on this real site. So what we're doing is, it's not even agile, it's not even waterfall. They're actually working together in real time, right? Once we set it up, it's working in real time. It's not even reiteration, it's like real time. And this is just one little example, and we try to come up with these ideas and process that could make the process a little bit faster. Another example was Aflac, and I thought this was just cool that we sold in the WebGL idea for Aflac, insurance company, so over the top. We just wanted to do it because we were just bored putting big images and big video player, and we're like, oh, can we do something cool? And they were like, yeah, let's make the duck fly, and it was part of the big campaign. So this, again, is using WebGL, and this, we care about file sizes and mobile, tablet, everything. This is extremely small file size. It works on smartphone that supports WebGL. Also, it has a separate version that lowers the density, the sprite, all the images are duplicate. It's extremely small. We also have a fallback version too. So just making sure we cover that. So our 3D guys were modeling this, rigging it. Normally, when you work with WebGL, you need to rig it in a certain way, and it just takes even more, three times more to rig this because the bone structure is super complicated. And he baked the texture, and also saved that as an FBX file and loaded into WebGL. Normally, we use Maya as a main kind of pipeline. Maya and WebGL doesn't have the best workflow. But what we did was Hector, who's the coder, kind of did some coding up front where the FBX file could show it up in real time. And so when Jordan's done with it, he could just pop it into a folder, check it in real time in the browser, and kind of adjust the animation. Without that workflow, it's just never going to happen because the timeline is so short for this. And our Hector, he wanted to because he's a crazy developer, he wanted to make a little bit more dynamicness to it. So he wanted to control the neck of the duck. And he told me, he's like, I asked him, okay, so what is this IK system you were using? I don't even understand this. But he's like, oh yeah, I used the fabric. And okay, so it's called forward and backward reaching inverse kinematics. And he said, if you show that, people would know. I was like, okay, but I fully don't understand. I'm a 3D artist, so I know a simple ARM, IK, and stuff like that. But this was, I guess, it had to move in any directional thing. It was using the first bone as a origin, and every bone will follow that direction. So he took that and made it into a WebGL version, taking 8 bones and adding a mesh to it. So as you can see in the previous screen, the bone is kind of following the neck. And again, those little details, to be honest, clients don't even know, but he just did it because he wanted to, and I think that's important because of what we're trying to do. And they really, at the end of the day, they crave the challenge, right? They crave the challenge. And for that small project, yes, it didn't make a big impact, but when we are ready for a bigger project, bigger opportunity, we have that pipeline set up for FBX and Maya to actual WebGL, and also the Fabric kind of IK system. We can now use that experience to do bigger things, So again, and also they had a great fun time, So I give them full credit for that. So crave the challenge. Third thing is don't get stuck behind the desk. I think this is really important because I did it. I made that mistake. Be a good person to friends, family, girlfriends, and boyfriends. Explore different things in life. Travel. Do something you love. Experience everything. It's not just about knowledge. You can't just read about life. You have to experience it, right? So let me just explain this. Knowledge, to me, is very one-dimensional. An experience is something, it's a more three-dimensional. It has multiple kind of dimension to it. So what it means is that when you take a piece of information and like, for example, experience, right? You have more possibility to actually take that data and apply it to something else. And it sounds obvious, but to me, it's really important because, like, for example, a running company was our client, and I knew everything about running. I read a lot about what marathon is and why people do it. And I actually ended up trying it. I did a half marathon, and it was, to be honest, I never ran a mile. It took me 6 months training, and I did it, and it was the best experience of my whole life. I don't know if I will do it again, but it was still great. But what I'm saying is, just to put you in context, that experience made me so much, I could think in a different way, and I think that was really important. So when people, especially the younger students who get so hung up with new technologies and online tutorials because there's so many in the world, they just kind of absorb all that, but they don't know how to apply that to a creative challenge. And I think that's a big problem because I grew up with, I'm super young. I quit school when I was 13. I took a test to graduate high school when I was 14, and I started designing at 14. And as crazy as it sounds, I started with these books. That was the only way. And books was slower to learn, but it kept me thinking. Kept me thinking throughout, and I think that's really important. These days, we're kind of missing that because everything is there in video form, and you can search for everything, and I think that's really important that you have to kind of like really, when you take that one information, you have to think about every possibility. At the end of the day, design or development, everything is all about solving challenges, right? This is another ANA airline Takeoff Mode game we made for a client. Simple, traditional, like a pinball, rollerball game. People have anxiety, right? And now these days, people let you use the electronic devices on takeoff. And we wanted to create a very simple game where they could focus on the game when they have anxiety, when they fly. And we did it, and it was really cool. And you should definitely check it out. But we wanted to do something cool when actually, we wanted to first detect when the plane was taking off, that moment. And surprisingly, it wasn't that easy. That taking off moment was really hard to detect. But I think it was one of our designer who does fixing. Like he loves mechanic stuff. It's his personal hobby, and he knew about sound could actually detect a problem of a machine. And we took that idea, and he was saying, oh, what if we could detect the engine sound and do something with it? And we're like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Let's try something. We have no solution, right? And we started to prototype with, okay, what does human voice sound frequency feel like? And you don't have to look at everything, but focus on these 4 balls here. The male voice and the female voice, you could kind of see those 2 balls on the right kind of move high or down. We tried with cars and trucks, and as you can see, all the 4 balls didn't move. And when obviously, we couldn't just go to JFK and record the sound. We searched for airplane takeoff, and there were millions of videos. So we took one of the videos, and we analyzed that sound. So when it was on the runway, as you can see, all the 4 balls are there. And then as it ramps up, starts running, and starts taking off, all the 3 balls kind of above the green line. And then when it's going really high, all the 4 balls going up, up, up. And then when it's in midair, all the balls now stay in this borderline. And that was really cool. That was really cool because there was no sound frequency that had all the 4 balls line up in that green zone. That just never happened. So we were like, okay, so if this makes sense, we just need to have an event handler at this moment and just trigger something. And we're like, cool, let's just make sure this theory actually works. And we had all the people who's taking vacation, all the people who's going to business trip, load up their prototype app, and just made sure they actually do it. And they recorded the sound, and it actually did work. And it was so awesome because this solving challenge was so different from what we were doing because we were searching for okay, how do you get evaluation? And we were searching the obvious path, and the solution was somewhere in such a different place. This is just we're doing a lot of QA on the plane just to feel like how it would feel. We had the debugger up just so that data gets sent to our developer. But next time, try it out, what happens. I want you guys to see what happens when it takes off, okay? So the third takeaway is life experience equals creativity. And I think, I really didn't think this way. I thought just doing something that's specific to art or design is the only thing I'm going to be better at designing. But actually, the more experience you have, the more creativity you have. You know, as a dad, having 2 kids, I never knew being a parent would actually influence me to become a better designer, but it did. So whatever your life is, make sure you live a full experienced life. And last but not least, you're not as good as you think you are. I know it sounds harsh. I don't know why I'm ending this way, but it was a bad order. I guess what I'm trying to say is give respect and you'll get it. You can take your work only so far. A great team can take it to a whole new level. So, and surround yourself with good people. This is really important. You know, be humble because like when you show respect, you're gonna get it. You know, and our team, we have so many different departments. We have the 3D, design, dev, front end, back end, sound guys, video guys, and producers, and all these teams need to work together. If one team falls, the whole project crumbles. You know, to make it from good to excellent, everyone needs to do it. And I think Rolex is a great example of kind of showing what I mean. Rolex came to us and they said, you know, we have a great store. People go there, you know, buy these $50,000 watch. I don't have it, but you know, they have a great store everywhere in the world, and they have the website where, you know, and they were asking, can we have something in between? You know, I get it. People are not going to the store. Can we just have them experience something a little bit closer? And we were ideating. We signed this discovery phase, and we didn't know what we were going to make. And we did many rounds of creative. And one of the things we came up with is actually, they were launching the Daytona, and they asked us if you could use Daytona as an example. And we picked an iPad, and before getting there, we had many different versions, many different platforms and different ways to do it on web and everything. But the finger just touching something felt like this was the thing we need to do something with. We started with just like OpenGL and versus an image sequence. How can we get that perfect shadow? Just testing multiple different things. We modeled the watch and saw and added some like friction and velocity. And can you even feel like you're actually pulling a weight as you pull up? So it doesn't feel like a paper. It has more weight to it. Or maybe it has more dynamic points. So depending on which point you drag, it can actually have a different ways of interacting with it. So it feels more alive. Maybe the reflection could be interesting because the actual reflection, because this watch is all full chrome, and the reflection was so important, can we show reflection depending on the gyro and the tilting motion of it? Can we even detect the ambient light of the room? So if you're in the dark night or scenery, maybe it shows up night mode. If you're in the day mode, maybe it shows the day. Maybe we could, you know, again, we're just like ideating different ideas. And how does it look on the wrist? You know, does it weird that you're actually moving your wrist like this? You know, or what is the angle, the camera angle? It should look like this. And we had like 10, 20 versions of these things, and we're trying to get that perfect angle where it felt so real that you're actually touching the watch. And for us, it was a lot of prototyping from dev side and 3D side and design side. And at the same time, designers were coming up with storyboards. Okay, this experience actually is going to start with the box that you're going to get. And from there, you're going to open the box, pick it up, try it, look at it every angle, and actually wear it, set the mechanic of the watch, and just have that full experience. But we think this is going to be actually better than the real watch. They came up with some mood boards of the light setup. They really liked this like kind of edgy, more black and white light. The silhouette of the skin tone, so it felt like it could be you, so it's not other person's hairy hand. 3D was the biggest challenge, to be honest, because Rolex never done CG watch in history. Before us, never. So we had to prove that we could do something amazing. So I remember like, we spent so much time and we printed out the actual photo in 3D and we showed it to them and they couldn't realize which one was what. And at that point, we knew we sold that in. So after 3D team spent so much time on the actual work, the dev guys and the designers had to just like step up. You know, at that point, you know, because they respect each other, they had to, or they know all that work's going to go into trash. We can't do that, right? So designer wanted to up their skill, developer wanted to push their boundary, and it has this like like kind of motivation each other. And I think that's how you do good work. You know, there's no magic to it. It's just like you have good people in a room together, they do great work. My point is that that's the future. We believe that's the future. And we want a Rolex to set the standard for all the brands out there. And we're in the work to actually produce for all of their lineup of the watches. And we think this is going to be amazing. And that could set a new standard for a luxurious item. And we're really excited. So the last kind of takeaway is don't be a dick. I mean, it's simple. Don't be a dick. Why? Just don't, you know? Hey, you're not that good. Just don't be a dick. I mean, just lose your ego, man. We're here to just create something awesome together, right? And again, it's just so, I mean, that's, to be honest, this is the first thing I look at when we hire people. And by the way, we're looking for people. And so please apply to us. And even though they're so good, if their personality isn't the fit, we never hire those people. So when you put all those 4 things together, I would say it really starts with you. Whatever environment you're in, you know, embrace it, right? Don't just say, oh, I'm going to change a company. Oh, that's going to boost my creativity. Or, oh, like, I wish I had a better design director. No, it starts with you. Actually, you could change a lot of things and create the challenge because that's how you get better. I think that's, we have to keep challenging ourselves and experience everything in life. That's going to make your brain flexible and think about bigger ideas that could solve problems. Because what we do is actually code and design in Photoshop. It's all tools, right? Coming up with a solution is the bigger idea we all need to have. And don't be a dick. Be humble and be nice to people. And when you do those things, when you do all those things, you're going to do great work. It's just period. Very simple. And that's my talk. Thank you so much.